Hi, I'm Ginny Rosencrantz with the University of Maryland Extension. Today we're going to talk about hedges. Hedges make really good neighbors, I think. And we're going to cover hedges that can grow in the sun and hedges that can grow in the shade. And the reason why I'd say both of those is because some plants can thrive in the shade and others can thrive in the sun. So join us for Delmarva Gardens coming up next right here on Pack 14. There are lots of different type of material that you can use to plant a hedge. If you don't want a hedge, you could always build a fence, but hedges give you so much more. They give you color, they give you texture, they give you flowers, they give you beautiful berries. These berries right here are green now, but come this autumn, they're going to be brilliant red right against this gorgeous deep green. So there's lots of wonderful attributes to a hedge. This hedge has been here for quite a long time. This is a type of holly. This is called the Burford Holly. Very popular in the South because it does love the southern areas, and here in Salisbury, we're southern enough for it. This hedge has been here for a while and it hadn't been pruned properly, and that's something you really have to worry about, how to prune it correctly. So when I first saw the hedge, maybe 2 to 3 feet up on top was green and everything here was brown. And so it was like you could see through the hedge. That's not the purpose of a hedge. So what we did is we had the landscape contractor prune it at an angle. So instead of coming straight down, it's more at an angle so that the sun could hit that and then hit this and then hit this and then hit this. That's important because if you don't have enough sun, the leaves are not going to get enough sunlight to grow and they will stop growing. The other thing that we did, on the very top, we went ahead and poked holes right on the very top of the hedge so that sunlight could come through the entire plant. After about 2 to 3 years, this hedge looked like this, which is green all the way through, which is so beautiful. Now the neat thing about this holly hedge is it does have holly leaves that have spines, and I'll pick one right off right now. It has 3 spines, 1, 2, 3, but it only has 1 to 3 spines. Some of them have only 1, and this has as many as 3. But these spines are pretty gentle, and whereas the Chinese holly has a spine that's a good 1/2 inch long. And so this is one that is not as nasty as the Chinese holly. It still makes a really nice green background, and it does a job. It makes nice neighbors. The neighbors on the other side love this because they have a beautiful hedge to enjoy, and that way they can enjoy their backyard and privacy, whereas the person who lives here can enjoy his backyard and his privacy. Anytime you're dealing with hollies, you always have to check to see if there are any insects here, and I don't see any, which is really good. There is a type of insect called a cottony camellia or holly scale, and it lives on the underside of the leaf, and it's white and fuzzy. We don't have one on this one, but what it will do is it's on the underside of the leaf, and when it actually has a soda straw type mouth part, and it sucks all the juices out of the leaf as much as it can. When it poops, which of course it does all the time, it poops on the leaf underneath this. And then that leaf gets covered with this very sweet, sticky bug poop called honeydew. And then on that, a type of mold called sooty mold, black sooty mold, will grow on that. Now the reason why I mention that is that people often see that sooty mold and go, what in the world is wrong with my plant? They look on top and they see the sooty mold. They don't realize that if you have to look on the underside of the leaf to find the insect that's causing the damage. So there's a couple things you can do. One thing is really just horticulture oil sprayed on top and then sprayed on the underside of the leaves to go ahead and smother the insect. And that will go ahead and get rid of the sooty mold, and it will also get rid of the insect. If you don't get rid of the insect, you'll never get rid of the sooty mold. But other than that, this is a very easy to care for hedge, and it will be beautiful all 4 seasons of the year: spring, summer, winter, and fall. I love it. I love it. I tell you what, why don't we go ahead and take a look at some other hedges that we have. One of them is called a tapestry hedge, and it has more than one plant. So join me for that part. Well, now we're in a full sun area with full sun, so glasses are required. Okay, good. This right here is an arborvitae. This is actually an American arborvitae. And when you're talking about having a hedge in the sun, there are so many different choices you can have. A lot of people just go, oh, I love the look of the arborvitae. As you can see, it's a solid green. This is called emerald green. Emerald green does not get as large as the green giants. Green giants get huge. This one actually stays about maybe 20, 30 feet tall. But you can keep it trimmed by topping it off at the hedge. This one has been a little bit pruned just to keep the shape a little bit. Luckily with arborvitaes, not much is needed. This one does have a few issues. If you have bagworms in the area, and bagworms are in our area, you do have to protect it against bagworms. July, the 1st of July is always the best time to be spraying for bagworms. And you can go ahead and use a very, very soft pesticide, which is actually a naturally occurring bacteria called Bacillus thuringiensis. And it will only attack the small, teeny tiny caterpillars that the bagworms make. So early is best. But this is an absolutely beautiful plant. It stays this gorgeous green all summer long, all fall. In the winter time, it turns a soft kind of a bronzy look to it. And then come spring, when the new foliage comes out, it goes back to this brilliant emerald green, which is why it's called the emerald green holly, arborvitae. Now, the thing is, a lot of people, like I said, like to choose this and only this. And it makes a spectacular hedge. But if you have all these beautiful arborvitaes all in a row, and you have one that for whatever reason dies, maybe somebody backed into it with their vehicle, or it got bagworms, or somebody left the irrigation system on, or somebody didn't water it and it died, then you have a problem, because you have all these beautiful things that look exactly alike, and then there's this gap, kind of like a missing tooth. You don't want to have a missing tooth. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what they call a tapestry hedge, where you have a couple of the beautiful arborvitaes together, and then we're going to switch to a couple of different types of green, evergreen plants that look really beautiful together. They have different shapes, they're different sizes, different colors, green, and different textures, but they're all gorgeous. And they make a wonderful hedge so that if you wanted to have some privacy, you can have it. And it takes a little bit of time to grow, but not that long. So join me while I take a look at another plant. Now this is a type of juniper. Junipers are also evergreen. There are some junipers that become a ground cover, some junipers are shrubs, and some junipers make trees. This one is called a Hollywood juniper, and it has been trimmed so that it is more of a solid hedge. These guys, the Hollywood junipers, notice how this branch sort of twists, and this one twists in a different way. It always looks like it's twisting and dancing. I just look at it, to me, it looks like these guys are always trying to dance. The landscape contractor has gone ahead and pruned it to make sure it looks more like a hedge, but it still reveals itself in all these little teeny twists and all that kind of stuff. Now, if you're going to be looking for bagworms, one of the things you want to do is take a look at the foliage, because this one also gets bagworms. Look at the foliage to see if you see anything very tiny moving when there's no wind. And right now there's no wind right here, but there's also no bagworms. You will find, like, see this blue-gray little guy here? This is a juniper berry. So junipers have berries. Isn't that cool? Very cool. So this can get to be about 15 to 20 feet tall. Again, it can be kept within bounds. It can get wide, but again, it can be kept within bounds. And again, when you're talking about trimming one of these, you have to trim it smaller on top and wider in the base. You always want to have like a V. So the arborvitae naturally grows that way, which makes it a lot easier to take care of. The juniper needs a little bit more help, and this can also get bagworms. But again, if you're taking care of one plant, you can take care of them all. Now I want to share another plant with you that is not a needled evergreen. This is called a needled evergreen because the arborvitae and the juniper, the leaves are little teeny tiny needles. So even in the wintertime, they stay green, and but the needles are very, very tiny. This is more primitive than plants that have leaves, true leaves. So the plant that we're going to look at right next is a type of magnolia. So this is the little gem magnolia. It has beautiful dark green glossy leaves. But because this is a dwarf plant, the leaves are smaller. And I think that that makes it a better choice for a hedge. This can be go ahead and pruned. One of the things that they have about this that I think is fascinating is it has gorgeous flowers. So here is the flower, the magnolia flower. Now if this was smell-o-vision, you would go, oh, magnolia. The flowers are so beautiful. And if you don't cut them, they will go ahead and stay nicely on the plant for quite a few days. Now the leaves are green on the top, real glossy green on the top, and sort of a soft brown on the bottom. Some magnolias actually have a fuzziness to the back of them. This one doesn't. But what's nice is that if there's a breeze and the leaf is twisting like that, you get the green and the brown, which is very attractive. And that glossy leaf is just so beautiful. Now, not only do you have the blossoms, but you have the pods. So right up here is a pod. This has already bloomed and the flowers are gone, but the pod is still very decorative. And eventually that will go ahead and have red berries on the inside, giving a different color contrast, which I think is totally lovely. Down here is one that is just beginning to form into a flower. This is so tight, it hasn't even opened up yet. So again, it's a type of pod, the flower that hasn't begun. Up here is one where it's more mature, and this covering right here, the calyx, is about ready to open up so that the petals that are here will be able to open up themselves. So it's really neat to see all the different colors. What's nice about the magnolias, the southern magnolias and the little gem magnolia, this will bloom all summer long. The regular evergreen magnolia sometimes needs 10 or more years before it starts to bloom, and it becomes a huge tree. It is absolutely gorgeous. The little gem blooms almost the first year you buy it, and it continues to bloom all through the summer. So spring, summer, and into the early fall. You cannot go wrong with something as lovely as this. So this is really nice. So let's take a look at another plant. Now this is a type of holly that is very adaptable to making a tapestry hedge. This is called an oak leaf holly, and that's because the leaf looks a little bit like an oak leaf. To me, it looks like a holly leaf, but you could also go ahead and stretch your imagination for it to be like an oak leaf. And this is a southern holly. This was actually developed in the United States to grow in the south, and we are far enough south for it to thrive beautifully. This does not get to be huge. I remember when I first heard about it, they said it'll get maybe 5 to 8 feet tall. Well, it usually gets about 10 feet tall. But that's usually about the height of it. And that's what about this one is almost 10 feet tall. And it's very, very dense, which is what you want in a hedge. The foliage has prickly thorns on it, spines, as the Burford Holly did, but not as spiny. I mean, it does have a lot more, but they're not as sharp and spiny, which is kind of nice. Now this holly can also get the cottony camellia holly scale. But again, it's one of those things, if you take care of it and you keep an eye on things and look to see if you see any sort of sooty mold or any black substance growing on it, that's when you need to start turning the leaves over and to see if there's any problem there. And I'm turning the leaves over and I see, here's one little teeny one. Okay, good. So here is an example of the sooty mold. See how you have this black mold right here? And this actually can be scraped right off. But if you go ahead and use like a horticulture oil, that will go ahead and help that sooty mold come off. The other thing is, here is the actual scale insect. So you see it has kind of like a fuzziness to it, and she's already gone ahead, laid her eggs. The eggs have come out, and so this has got little teeny tiny scale crawlers. Bugs have 3 different types of mouth parts. You can have a mouth part like ours where we actually chew things up, and that would be like caterpillars and beetles. And then there's the insects that have a soda straw mouth part. Think of mosquitoes and these kind of scale. And the other one is one that they actually have like upper teeth but no bottom teeth, and they just scrape things. And what they do is they leave like a white streak in the leaves. It's kind of a strange thing, but that's what they do. So with this one, the eggs have been hatched, and the little scale, which are very tiny and you really can't see them right now, what they've done is they put their soda straw mouth part in here, and now they're sucking actually the liquid out of the cells and some of the chlorophyll too. But what you're going to notice most of anything is the sooty mold on here. So a little bit of horticulture oil sprayed on top and underneath would help, and there's other things that a professional landscape contractor can help you with, guys. So any type of hedge that you grow is going to require a little bit of work, but something like this makes your backyard look beautiful, or your side yard. It gives you privacy, it gives you color in this all through the 4 seasons, and it'll give you privacy through the 4 seasons. A living hedge can be so much more attractive than a fence, especially if you have neighbors that you really like. It requires a little bit of work and a little bit of care, but so does a fence. And this is just adds so much more, especially in terms of the ecology, because of the greenness of the plant, and it pulls in carbon dioxide and gives off oxygen. It's just a wonderful plant to have. So I'm glad that you joined me. We learned about plants that can go ahead and become a hedge in the shade, plants that can be very, very good in the sun. And we learned a few things about some of the problems it can have, but everything that grows has a little bit of a problem, and we can solve those problems. I hope you enjoyed the tour of a tapestry garden and the shade garden. As you can see, there's a lot of different plants to choose from, and we've just touched the tip of all the different types of plants we could use. But I want to thank you so much for joining us for Delmarva Gardens right here on Pack 14.